Yet a man can admire the bodies of many women, but only one can become a constant thought that haunts his day and night. And no, that's not what you're imagining right now. Forget all the ready-made formulas about attraction. Forget magazine stunts, catchphrases, or Hollywood secrets. What really attracts a man has nothing to do with perfect shapes, revealing clothes, or an unforgettable night out. All this is just a superficial game. True, addiction is born elsewhere, in the mind. When a man feels that his mind is being affected on levels that he doesn't understand it himself, something is changing. It's like an invisible trigger is triggered inside him. He may even try to resist. He may be distracted by other people. He may pretend that he doesn't care, but he always returns to that fixed point, to you. And that's the difference. Physical desire is excised, satisfied, and passes away. But the mental connection does not know saturation. It is like a psychological drug. The more he experiences, the more he needs. This dependence is not created in the body. It is cultivated in an invisible space between words, in small actions, in a mystery that he cannot solve. He begins to realize that he is not attracted to beauty, charisma, or even the initial chemistry. This is something much deeper. It feels like you're getting into parts of his mind that no one has ever touched. And when that happens, he doesn't just want to be with you. He needs it. This is a point that almost no one understands. True power does not lie in offering what everyone offers. It's about awakening something in him that almost no woman awakens. The body can be compare, measure, replace. The mind is not there. Once he manages to ignite this invisible fire in him, he finds himself in an unfamiliar territory where he has no control. He begins to wonder, what is it about her that makes me think so much? Why can't I just move on? And the more he searches for an answer, the more confused he gets. The male mind loves to solve problems, but when the problem is you, it never finds a definitive solution. You become a mystery that he cannot solve, a question that stubbornly remains open. And that's what keeps him going, because physical desire can be satisfied overnight, but mental desire is never satisfied. It just grows, multiplies, and consumes space. He begins to search for you not only with his body, but also with every thought, every memory, and every silence. His addiction is not in what you show, but in what you awaken. And believe me, there is no drug more powerful than this. Here, we're revealing a secret. What really obsesses a man, mind is not your physical presence, but the invisible impact that you have. You leave it inside him. It's a real mental drag, one that can't be bought, measured, or faked. When you awaken unexpected emotions in him, when you make him feel something that he cannot explain, you plant a seed. This seed grows quietly until he realizes that he can no longer imagine life without this feeling. It's not about dominating looks. It's not about being the most beautiful or the most desirable. It is about becoming unforgettable, about touching his mind so that every memory of you becomes the trigger. Carl Jung said that what is deeply felt in the unconscious is never forgotten. That's exactly what's happening. You stop being just a woman among many and become a unique and irreplaceable experience. This is the true power, the addiction that holds him captive, a psychoactive substance that makes a man want you more than anything in the world. You don't have to distort yourself or compete to be more beautiful or more fun. The truth is that the most powerful attraction is not born in the body, but in the mind. And here lies the secret, which almost no one understands. What we are revealing here is the nature of this invisible catalyst, the hidden formula of this mental drug that awakens a man's true and lasting desire. I'll show you what it is, why the male brain reacts to it on a biological level. And first of all, how can you start creating this effect naturally, without games, without masks, and without losing your essence? That's my promise. If you stay, you will not only learn a new concept, but also understand the operating system of male desire, which is 99% completely ignores people. And this knowledge is power. The power to really touch someone from the inside. So, what kind of mind drug is this? What secret ingredient penetrates through all the protective barriers of a man and is installed directly into the most intimate control center of his mind? The answer is in one word. And it's probably not what you imagine. Not passion. It's not a mystery. It's not even a beauty. The word is admiration. I know, maybe you'll think about it. Sobbing doesn't sound very sexy. It seems that this is something that we feel for a leader, a teacher, and not for a partner. But it is in this apparent paradox is the hidden power of admiration. To understand why, you need to take a quick look at the male mind and its more primitive programming from the point of view of evolution and psychology. A man is driven by a deep need to seek, conquer, and prove his competence. He wants to be good at what he does, to feel good about himself, capable of creating, protecting, leading. Physical attraction, of course, exists. It's a spark, an instantaneous impulse. He looks and his instinct screams, I want her. But this desire is one-sided, superficial, and can disappear as quickly as it appeared. Admiration, on the other hand, changes everything. The moment he realizes that you see in him not only the body but also the essence, not only the present but also the potential, something much more awakens. Admiration not only fuels desire, it reinforces it. This is what turns a fleeting impulse into true affection, because the moment a man feels admired, something inside him is rearranged. His mind connects pleasure not only with physical contact, but also with a deeper one, recognition of their identity. And this is happening on a much deeper level than he can explain. Biologically, admiration activates the same circuits in the male brain as motivation and purpose, dopamine, serotonin, and even oxytocin, the substances responsible for pleasure, reward, and connection, begin to mix in a rare combination. For him, being with her is no longer just a pleasant experience, it becomes a necessary experience. That's why so many relationships that start with just physical attraction fade quickly. The body was satisfied, the novelty was gone. But when there is admiration, when this mental drug exists, desire does not decrease. On the contrary, it grows, renews, and strengthens with each iteration. And the most fascinating thing about this is that it's not manipulation or tricks. You don't have to be perfect or fit in the box. Admiration arises when you awaken in him the realization that you are an authentic woman in harmony with your energy, radiating confidence and purpose. It challenges him, but at the same time it inspires him. Think carefully. Anything can cause physical desire, but few people can be admired. And when that happens, there's no room for comparison. He may even meet other attractive women, but none of them activate the same circle within him. That's why admiration is so powerful. It does not compete with beauty, does not depend on age, and does not require perfection. It opens an invisible channel in the male consciousness, a channel that makes him receptive, loyal, and even addicted. Now, you may be wondering, but how do you evoke this admiration? How? To make a man see me exactly like that? The answer is not to try to be someone you are not. The point is just the opposite, to align your energy with what naturally inspires respect and inspiration. A man feels admiration when he notices the consistency between what you say and what you do. When he notices that your choices are not guided only by external approval, but by an inner sense of value, he should not agree at all. In fact, it is often in contrast that the spark lights up. It's important that he understands that you're driven by something more than just a desire to please. Another important point is how you listen to him. I'm not talking about listening as if you're waiting for your turn to speak, but about really giving him the space to open up. For a man, being seen at this level is rare. And when he feels that he can show vulnerability, dreams, and even insecurities without fear of judgment, something changes inside him. There is also a subtlety of inspiration inside. Admiration is not idolatry, but the awakening of a desire to become a better person. This is when he looks at himself through you and he sees a more noble reflection of himself. At this moment, you are not just someone next to him. You become a part of his path, and biologically, it creates a powerful bond. His brain associates your presence not only with pleasure, but also with growth. Not only to desire, but also to the goal. And this causes dependence for the male mind, at the level of which the man himself often cannot explain. That's where what we call the mental drug comes in. Not a trick, but an atmosphere, an invisible field that makes him want to be near you. Not because he needs it, but because that he feels it's better this way. Admiration is the foundation, but on its own. You say a phrase that lightens the atmosphere. It's the ability to turn an ordinary moment into a pleasant memory. For the male brain, your presence begins to be associated with relief, simple and sincere pleasure. Mystery is not about making games or hiding things, but about not reducing yourself to a single dimension. This is to show that there is always something new in you, an unexpected interest, a different perspective, an untold story. This keeps his mind moving because every meeting becomes a discovery, and the person, the one who opens it, always wants to come back. But inspiration is perhaps the most powerful layer. It happens when he sees you pursuing your own goals with passion and courage. It doesn't matter if these are big achievements or small steps. He admires the energy of a man who lives in harmony with his truth. It awakens in him an almost instinctive force to strive, to match, to grow together. When all this comes together, admiration ceases to be just a word. It becomes a living chemistry. He starts looking not only for your company, but also your essence. And that's how an invisible addiction is born, not because of a trick, not because of manipulation, but because his mind finds something in you that nourishes, and the more he tries, the more precisely, not as a toxic addiction, but as someone who has discovered a new oxygen and can no longer imagine life without breathing this air. Over time, these repetitive experiences do not remain only in conscious memory. They penetrate deeper, take root in his unconscious. That's where the silent transformation takes place. A man may not even be able to explain why he does so much. He thinks about you, but he feels in his body, in his choices, in his dreams, that something has changed. He starts comparing things without even wanting to. Other people may be attractive, they may be interesting, but no one activates the same circuits in him, because it's not just about beauty or pleasure. It's about how you make him feel, and it cannot to be copied. The male unconscious functions as an invisible radar. He remembers with force everything that causes a deep emotional impact. And once fixed, it cannot to be deleted. You become a benchmark, the standard by which all other experiences are measured. That's why this combination is so powerful. Respect provides the foundation. Lightness brings pleasure, secretly keeps the fire going. And inspiration projects the future. Together, these layers form a structure that is difficult to replace. Deep down, what's going on? Simple, but devastating. You become part of his reward system. Your presence triggers the same chemistry in the brain as winning recognition. You stop being just the woman he's dating and become the most stable and meaningful, the source of dopamine in his life. And the more he experiences this condition, the more confused he becomes. Not because you're forcing him, but because his own unconscious doesn't want to let go. That's how admiration added to these invisible layers turns into a real mental drug, an experience that does not wither, does not wear out, does not disappear, an experience that shapes desire and keeps it alive day after day. The first change happens imperceptibly. He starts looking for your presence, even for no apparent reason. Trivial messages, unexpected invitations, questions that could be asked. I would ask anyone, but they choose to ask for you. It's as if he's unconsciously creating excuses to stay in touch. Then the priority signs appear. He is reorganización chararios, muda compromisos, abrispasun su agenda. It doesn't always realize what he's doing, but the pattern is clear. You begin to occupy the center of his attention. And when a man puts someone in that place, it's hardly an accident. Another notable change is the intensity of listening. He doesn't just listen to your words. He remembers, repeats about the little ones, the details, the title of the book you mentioned, the opinion about the music, even the way you described your day. For him, all this becomes important because every fragment of you serves as food for the mind. But perhaps the strongest sign is the difficulty of moving away, even when he tries, even when logic, he says he has to, but something pulls him back. He can spend his days being busy, immersed in problems, surrounded by other people, and yet in silence, his thoughts always return to the same point, to you. This is the power of an unconscious connection. It's irrational, it's uncontrollable, it doesn't depend on conscious choices. It, like a track already recorded in the brain, that always leads to the same goal. And the most intriguing thing is that for him, this experience doesn't sound like prison. On the contrary, it feels like freedom. Being with you is not just a desire, it's a relief. It's not just an attraction, it's fullness. And this feeling is too rare to leave easily. The more he experiments, the more difficult it is to imagine a world where this feeling does not exist. Dependence here is non-destructive. It is transformative. At this stage, the boundary between desire and necessity begins to disappear. He no longer thinks of you only as someone he would like to have around. You begin to inhabit the way he sees himself. He feels more confident when he's around you, more creative, more courageous, more alive. And noticing this, his brain creates an automatic association. She is the source of this condition. Every time he experiences this feeling, the bond is strengthened. It's like you become a mirror that he likes to see in. His reflection, the reflection of his best versions. And this perception is powerful because it does not depend on what you are doing at a particular moment. It depends on who you are, on how your presence forms the energy around him. Therefore, he cannot replace, maybe even try, maybe look for new experiences, but none of them causes the same chemistry. Other connections seem superficial, repetitive, temporary. With you, he feels depth, he feels continuity, he feels like he's going to get something more. And that's when a real quiet obsession sets in. Not that chaotic, an obsession based on jealousy or insecurity. It's a form of unavoidable affection built on a foundation of admiration, a type of connection that does not break easily because it is maintained not only by the body, but also by the subconscious mind. With every memory, with every loss, with every meeting, this circle closes. You become not just a part of his life, but a part of the inner structure that gives meaning to this life. And when that happens, there's no going back. When this connection is already strengthened, it begins to affect not only intimate moments, but also his whole life. His choices get a new access, career, projects, even personal plans. Everything begins to filter through the prism of the idea of whether you will be present in this future or not. It's almost unnoticeable. At the beginning, he chooses the path of work, thinking about how he will have more time to be around. He redefines priorities to protect the space that exists between you. Not because someone forced him, but because the brain already associates you with the most rewarding. This is the moment when the connection ceases to be random and becomes structural. You're not just part of the routine, you're part of his identity. The presence of you together is not just a company, but a significance. And the influence goes even deeper. It starts to grow. Men, when faced with this kind of admiration, tend to raise their own standards, work harder, dream higher, and strive to become the version of themselves that they consider worthy of the look they receive from you. Your influence is not limited to attachment alone, it is expressed in purpose. Absence, on the other hand, is hard to take. He may be distracted for a while, but soon feels empty. Because when the brain associates someone with its own sense of evolution, every distance becomes a reminder that something important is missing. And the more it repeats, the more he finds himself unable to imagine a future in which you are not. Not because he needs to be saved, but because he understands that life takes on a different quality next to you. That's how admiration combined with respect, likeness, mystery, and inspiration surpasses the initial attraction. It ceases to be just a desire. It becomes destiny. Over time, this pattern is becoming more and more obvious. He doesn't need words. His actions betray the truth. You become a quiet support in his decisions. When faced with a dilemma, you remember what you would have said. When he thinks about a new challenge, he imagines if you would support him. When he celebrates a victory, he wants you to be there to witness it. This invisible presence accompanies him in all spaces, at work, among friends, even in moments of loneliness. What used to be individual choices begins to carry the burden of connection, as if life suddenly, it was no longer just about him, but about you. And the most curious thing is that even without noticing it, he begins to change. His habits change. His ambitions adjust. He seeks more balance, more focus, more purpose. Because every step he takes outside of this unity brings discomfort, as if he attaches something important, the male mind, so accustomed to the search for external achievements, finds an inner achievement here. And this conquest is not about possession, but about preservation, not to consume, but to nourish. It's the kind of motivation that doesn't disappear when novelty passes, because it doesn't become conscious. Its depth. This depth is evident even in silence. He can be, understands what it means to love. For many men, love begins with the body. Attraction, impulse, instinct of conquest. But after you experience what it means to be with someone you admire, the bar changes forever. He understands that it's not just about physical presence or instant chemistry. The true value lies in the psychological impact and inner expansion. The feeling that a relationship is not a prison, and the catalyst that being with someone doesn't mean losing your freedom, but gaining new horizons. This understanding is beginning to influence how he looks at all other connections. The superficial relationships that used to be satisfying now seem insufficient. The surface interactions that used to serve as a distraction now sound empty. He discovers that there is a level of emotional experience that can no longer be ignored. And at that moment, love for him ceases to be just an emotion. It becomes almost a belief system. He begins to believe that the true connection is not one that feeds only the body, but one that reprograms the mind. It's not something that burns out quickly, but something that builds invisible roots. Psychologically, this causes involuntary devotion. His brain associates this type of connection with his own emotional survival. The template is imprinted, something that inspires admiration, respect, lightness, mystery, and inspiration cannot be lost without losing something important. And even when you try to resist, even when pride speaks louder, the mind insists on reminding you, not in chaotic outbursts, but in calm, memories that are imposed. One music, one smell, one phrase, said once, everything turns into the trigger. Little keys that open huge doors inside him. Deep down, he understands, even without admitting it, that he is looking not just for a partner, but for a landmark. What to love in its rarest form is to allow to change yourself under the influence of someone who awakens the best in you. Over time, this experience is not limited to the emotional sphere only. She begins to guide even big decisions, career, projects, plans for the future. Everything starts going through a new filter. The idea of matching what he feels, he can choose. The professional path is not only for the sake of money, but also for what it means to you. He may reject opportunities that previously seemed irresistible simply because he realizes that they do not correspond to the life he imagines next to him. The desire to be admired turns into a compass, and this compass begins to guide the entire map of his existence. This effect also affects your understanding of family and relationships. A man who experiences this level of connection understands that living together is not a sacrifice, but an extension. He understands what to build. Something lasting does not mean losing freedom, but multiplying meaning. The search stops being a scattered adventure and focuses on the legacy. And eventually, the idea of a goal gets a new definition. Previously, the goal could be a career, individual achievements or social trophies, but after he experienced what it means to be deeply admired and inspired, he understands that the goal is also to be a part of a larger story, a story that is not written alone. This alignment is so powerful that it penetrates even into everyday habits. He takes more care of himself. He disciplines himself, reviews his behavior, not because someone asked, but because the inner one feels that he needs to become a higher version of himself. And the more this transformation progresses, the more he realizes that he cannot separate who he is today from the experience he has had with you. You're not just someone who came into his life. You're the factor that reorganized his priorities, revised his plans, and redefined what it means to love. This is the longest lasting effect of a real psychotropic substance. Not only to hold a fleeting desire, but also change the entire trajectory of a person's life. In everyday life, the signs become even clearer. It's not just in what he says, but also in what he does without realizing it. Small actions reveal the depth of the influence you exert. He begins to recall details that would have gone unnoticed before. The way you like coffee, the way you organize your things, even the tone of your voice when you talk about something you love. These recordings remain imprinted because for him, every detail is a fragment of an experience that he wants to keep alive. The difference is also noticeable in conversations. He doesn't just talk about himself, but includes you in his plans, even when they are still far away. Uses expressions such as when we are, if we are there, what would it be like for us? This subconscious mind projects the future as if it's natural that you're in it. Even in the most mundane habits, reflection is evident. He begins to take more care of his health, invest in his appearance, and discipline his daily routine. Not because you asked, but because the very presence of admiration makes him want to be better. He wants the reflection, you see, to be worthy of the image you project onto him. There is also a type of silent surveillance. He begins to avoid situations or choices that could jeopardize this relationship. The fleeting pleasure of distractions loses its power before the possibility of losing something much more. His brain has already learned that nothing compensates for the lack of this experience. And deep down there is always an attempt to prolong the contact, a message sent late at night. Comments amid the daily rush, it would seem, a trivial invitation. It doesn't matter if it's big or small. The goal is always, it's the same thing. Keep the communication fire going. These actions may seem simple to those watching from the sidelines, but they carry a huge burden. It is a daily expression of affection that does not disappear, of a mind that is already accustomed to working in harmony with your presence. Like that, gradually, desire ceases to be just a fleeting feeling and turns into a way of life. Over time, not only does the way he behaves towards you change, but also the way he begins to see himself, experience being admired, awakens a new inner mirror in him. He begins to see himself not only because of what he does or achieves, but also because of the impact he exerts. This perception strengthens him. A person who previously measured himself only by external results, numbers, status, and social recognition now finds a more intimate parameter, a sense of inner growth. He feels like he doesn't need anything around you to prove to the whole world. Just maintain the version of yourself that you already see. This reflection creates a different kind of confidence, a solid one. He feels more confident in his choices, more consistent in his values, more focused on his own identity. This is not the kind of confidence that is on display. This is the confidence that supports, and inevitably this change overwhelms in social circles. He's beginning to be perceived as a more stable, more holistic, more magnetic person. At work, he conveys more focus and authority. Personal projects gain clarity, but deep down, all this is a consequence, an invisible root, a feeling of constant push from a source of admiration that does not disappear. This condition also develops a certain type of emotional discipline. He learns to regulate his impulses better, to be more patient, to deal with frustrations in a more mature way, because he knows, even without putting it into words, that keeping in touch is more important than winning petty ego battles. Thus, a person living under this influence not only desires more, but also becomes more. He discovers the meaning of evolution, which is not limited to himself, but finds its power lies in reflecting the connection. And in this process, he can no longer separate his current identity from the presence that caused it all. You stopping be just a memory or a partner, you become an integral part of the story he tells about who he is. At this stage, love ceases to be just a feeling that comes and goes. For him, love becomes almost an organic obligation, something that manifests itself not out of obligation, but out of inevitability. He doesn't question whether he should be with you or not. He just can't imagine a situation where he doesn't exist. The form in which it is given is also changing. A man who might have been afraid of vulnerability in other ways now finds the confidence to openly show their weaknesses, because they understand that they do not lose their value as a person. On the contrary, they gain even more connection. Respect does not depend on perfection, and he feels it in practice. Your commitment is no longer just declarative. He begins to make commitments in every choice, when he organizes his time, when he takes care of himself, when decides the direction of their projects. The connection manifests itself not only in spoken words, but also in constant actions that reflect the invisible priority that you have become. This standard also changes the way he interacts with the world. He becomes more selective about the people around him, more critical in situations in which he puts his energy, because deep down, every distraction that takes him away from you seems to lose its appeal. Nothing compares to the space you share. And this new form, love, is not marked by anxiety of loss, but the intensity of the value. He does not move out of fear, but out of a sincere desire to protect what he has discovered to be rare. The presence that you left in his mind acts like an invisible footprint, imprinted together, where logic cannot reach. It's like there's a magnet hidden inside him, always pulling him to the same point. It can disappear for days, weeks, even months, but the return is inevitable, because what you awakened was not just an attraction, but a redirection of the psyche. Deep down, he knows that there is no longer anything before you that could be restored. The man, he was no longer exists, because something has been reprogrammed in him. His desires, his memories, even his projections of the future. now bear the imprint of this experience. And this makes him so vulnerable and at the same time so devoted. He's not just in front of a woman, he's standing in front of his own expanded version of himself. You are a portal that connects your current identity with the potential that you have always been looking for but never knew what to call. This fusion creates a force of attraction that does not break. The more he lives, the more he feels that his path is intertwined with yours. It's like time, chance, and even biology. They talk to remind H